All I really wanna see is the money. I don't really need a D, I need the money. All a bad bitch need is the money. I got pants in the coop.
This is Kizzy-Unfiltered. And this is our inaugural episode where I am going to share this other side of me. But before you get to learn more about this other side and these layers, you may be wondering, what is this podcast, this vlogcast even about? So I'm going to break it down for you. So, it's like in many ways, I know this is going to seem really weird, but this is a place I adored, especially when I weighed 300 pounds, and that was McDonald's. I adored their 20-piece chicken McNuggets. I would get that, and I think I would also get like 2 cheeseburgers, and then of course like a large fry and a large diet drink, to balance it out. And so when it comes to these layers, in many ways, it makes me think of McDonald's, right? In that McDonald's has chicken nuggets, they have burgers, they have fries, they have pop, they have breakfast, but they also have this other side of them, right? They have some healthier items. They have regional items. Like at one point when I lived in Wisconsin, they used to sell like a Johnsonville brat sandwich, believe it or not. And that's what this podcast, our time together, Kizzy-Unfiltered, is all about, is learning and digging deeper into not only the other side of me, but this other side that most people don't talk about when it comes to topics like money, business, relationships, as well as just life in general. Because what's important is that I'm able to help you in one of these ways by just putting it out there based on my life experiences, based on any guests that I bring on, based on any feedback and comments that you share with me. Because this is an amazing safe space where I'm so grateful to have you. And also make sure, as we have our time together, that you review, that you share, that you comment, that you definitely engage, because the engagement is vital to success. When you think about a person, you think about history, has there really been someone who has gained success? However you want to define it, whether it's having lots of fancy things, whether it's being able to have that life you've always wanted to live, whether it's be able to just use your time accordingly, or maybe buy your mom a house, who knows? Has there ever been this person who's like, yeah, I was able to do all of that on my own? No. And so that's also why I'm here, is to give you this unfiltered insight so that you can start adding and growing so you can accomplish and have that life you've always wanted to live. That if you're in this position where you're tired of your job, you're tired of your boss, you're tired of all the personalities at work, hey, there's something here for you too. If you're a thriving entrepreneur, but maybe you want to take things to the next level, you want to make 10 million, 20 million, $100 million a year, this is the place for you. If you just want to vibe with me and laugh and, enjoy my curly hair. And so we're definitely going to have a segment about hair, y'all. This is the place for you, as well as a great place to just talk, to share, to dig deep into these areas where they may come up: wealth, business, things around sex, around relationships, around family. But it's kind of at the surface level where it's what you see on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, it's as you're scrolling and it's something that stops to feed, like something involving a celebrity or something that's just really shocking. But very rarely do we really have the opportunity to really just process and have this unfiltered moment, because we're so busy, caught up in just this rat race, that taking that time to really think and process and ponder, it can be scary for some, it may be unavailable for others. And for some of you out there, maybe it hasn't even crossed your mind. So we're going to dig deep into a bunch of different types of content. So for today's inaugural amazing episode, Kizzy-Unfiltered, it is most appropriate that I share with you something that I never expected. So as I shared, I once weighed about 300 pounds, and I always had a trainer. When I first started working out, I went to this trainer at my college. So it was a smaller college, second story. I think my gym membership was like free because I was still connected to the school since I was an alum. And personal training sessions, get this, everyone, get this. They were $25 an hour. And I would train with a student there. Typically, they were students from another country because that was the only place they could legally work on campus. Hey, who knows why? And I started to train. I started going to all these fitness classes. I started to fall in love with running 5Ks. And before you knew it, I was down 100 pounds, and I was just all about fitness and also worked on my health. Because as you know, McDonald's was a big go-to, and Domino's. Not sponsored by either, just sharing. So I always had a trainer because that is how I started. I was always told, you find someone who knows more than you, and that's who you should get help from. So I thought, okay, that doesn't just apply to college or someone to paint my walls or fix my dryer, but it also applies to fitness. So I had a trainer, I had a nutritionist. Everyone knew about this transformation. So as time went on, I decided to move from little sleepy Central Florida to bright, shiny, sexy, new to me, Miami Beach. And I didn't just decide to move just to Miami Beach, but South Beach and south of what you see on TV. It's usually a part of town that many are surprised exists because they didn't come across it. Or maybe they're very familiar because they love restaurants like Poppy Steak or Milo's or Prime 112, as all of those restaurants are right around where I live. So as I moved there, I continued with this routine because it's what got me to where I was. I started to see different trainers, but the difference was these trainers weren't $25. They were well more than that. So I had to find a trainer on a budget, which it can be very challenging, even with apps like, I think it's called Thumbtack. They sometimes have options on there. But if you go to like a chain or a big box fitness place, what I learned, I'm unsure if you all are aware of this or not, but for instance, one of them would charge, let's say $100 or $125 for a session. And before, I was working out with a trainer 3 to 5 days a week because I was only paying $25 an hour. With that, or of that 125, the actual person who was training me was only paid a fraction. I think they were paid like their hourly rate plus like an add-on. You know, you can argue for or against the model. That was the model. All I knew was $125 was not in my budget. 3 to 5 days a week. It was on my budget, but I wanted to stay in shape and continue on how I was. So I found this trainer kind of on a budget. He was real cool. His name is Ethan. And what I really liked about Ethan is that we really connected. He was down to earth at that time. I was going through like my CrossFit stage, and he was helping me with all these CrossFit moves because, man, I had no idea how to do things with the bar. I had no idea. But what I did have a really good idea about, and I really loved about Miami, was going to the bar and going to the clubs and just living this life like I was 21 and a half. Because you all know, like when you're under the age of 25, those halves still count. They still counted. They counted when you were 8, they counted when you were 10, and they darn sure count when you are 21, right? You all know you've been there. I'm not the only one. I mean, maybe I am, but I don't know. So I felt like I was 21 and a half. I was going everywhere. And it was like, oh my gosh, these bars don't close till 5. And this club is open 24 hours a day. And I'm leaving the club and the sun is coming out. That was the life I was living past my 20s. But I was living in Miami while still trying to work out and be entrepreneurial. I thought I was just having fun because I was on a mission. I wanted to find a man. I wanted a husband. It's funny looking back, but you know, this is unfiltered, Kizzy-Unfiltered. So I'm being very open with you. I kind of approached it like it was an assignment. I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a man. So I joined kickball and going to all of these bars and clubs, and I'm going to all of these like meetup events just on a mission. And for the most part, most of these events involved alcohol, because that was one of my favorite things to do, was to drink. So while in Miami and Miami Beach, I drank a lot. This wasn't unusual. It's not as if I didn't really drink like in the movies, you know, there's always, or any kind of show or on Netflix or um, YouTube, there's always the character development, like the shy girl, and she kind of looks homely, and then all of a sudden something happens and she becomes this knockout, and like within 5 minutes she gains all this confidence and everybody wants to be her friend and marry her and all of those things. It's not like that happened with me and alcohol. No, we were always married. We just had, you know, different types of relationships with each other. So in Miami Beach and Miami, it just continued on, where it felt a lot like graduate school, where I would drink and come home and get sick, or drink and spend the night somewhere and not know where I was spending the night, or drink and wake up and not know where my car was, or drink and wake up and wonder why my bank account was negative. There was a lot of that going on. And it was getting to this point where I still thought, oh, this is fun, right? I was like, this is a lot of fun. And I remember distinctly at the time, I had an employee where we lived together. We were doing this whole thing like, oh, we're this startup. We're going to live together and work together. Yeah. You can imagine how that turned out. And I remember this person said to me, as I rolled into this condo on South Beach, like 2 blocks from the beach, it's probably 6, maybe right around 6 a.m. And I had offered to accompany this person to a marathon because they were running. And I roll in and they're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. You're coming in late from the clubs. You have a problem. You didn't, and I just was like, oh my goodness, you have the problem. Like, why are you trying to like be my buzzkill? Why are you killing my vibes? Like, go run your race. I'm gonna hang out and chill and sleep and wake up and do it again. So I continue living like this past my 20s. And I say that because in our society, somehow that's okay. Like, oh, it's your 20s. Like, you can go wild. It's like they're insinuating you can commit like heinous crimes because it's your 20s. But God forbid you hit 31 or something, like, oh, all over. You can't do that anymore. Can't have more fun. So I'm not one for rules. So I just kept going on, kept partying and meeting people and just living this life. And I started to notice that um, the people that I was actually associating with, I mean, this is going to come as a shock, y'all. They were not very good people. Like I remember one distinctly, like they were affiliated with this person who was like smuggling drugs into Miami. And this wasn't just like some hearsay or like, come on, Kizzy, you're exaggerating. You're just saying that. No, 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 y'all. I promise you, I experienced this because the one thing is I've never done drugs. I was never into drugs. I never wanted drugs because I always drank. I always drank. So I kind of felt in my soul like, man, I have a feeling I'm going to start experimenting with drugs if I continue on this path. And so, right after 4th of July in 2013, I'm working out with Ethan. Because remember, I'm living that life, right? And all of a sudden, he starts screaming at me in this gym. And he's like, what are you doing? You're hungover or drunk. I don't need to work with you. I don't need this money. I do this because I like it. And you, Kizzy, have a problem. You need to go to the Sobe room before we meet each other again because my girlfriend goes there and you need to go or I'll never train you again. And it hit me like someone just like punched me in the face. I was like, what a problem. I thought back to, my roommate and other things in life. And I was like, oh man, maybe I got to check this out. Let me go to the Sobe room. Maybe they'll teach me like how to drink so I can keep drinking, but not drink the way I drink. And so turns out the Sobe room was like AA. I was like, oh, Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, cool. They're going to teach me how to drink. I really did think these things. So I'm in there and I would sit in the back. I remember the first meeting, they're talking about like handing things over to God and not drinking. And I was like, what? Not drinking. Like all I kept thinking about was like all the places I'd never drank. I was like, okay, I've never been to like Germany for like Oktoberfest. I've never done around the world. Like I love how in that moment, that's where my brain was like on all this stuff I've never consumed in my life. And so a couple weeks go by and I'm continuing to go to AA because I wanted to work out with Ethan, right? And on the 28th of July, 2013, I decided that was it. I was at a restaurant with a friend and her husband, and I ordered this glass of red wine. It wasn't even good red wine. And I drank half of it, and I said to myself, how am I going to AA meetings and proclaiming that I want to be sober and have this change occur that they keep talking about in these meetings if I'm still drinking? And that was the last time I drank. That was 9 years ago. And I have to tell you, this fabulous woman would not be here today if it weren't for Ethan, if it weren't for God, and most importantly, well, not most importantly, God's most important, but second, AA and my sponsor at the time. It just changed everything. And what came about was that I learned it wasn't about the alcohol. I thought, hey, somebody just needs to teach me how to drink, I'll be good. No, negative. It was not about the alcohol. Alcohol was like the top of the iceberg. All of these other things were below: character defects, being selfish, things from my childhood, just things, socialization, just unresolved anger, so much insecurity, so many issues that evolved me, but I thought it was alcohol. It's like how sometimes I know for me, I thought like, oh, when I get married, life's gonna be great. When I lose weight, things are gonna be great. When I get a lot of money, things are gonna be great. Like I thought it was like these magical outside forces were going to like somehow transform me. Like I'm a Disney character and now I'm like queen of everything. No. And the same thing happened when I got sober. I mean, my skin looks great. I mean, come on. I think it looked good before too, but it took time. It took a lot of time. And while it's one of the greatest accomplishments I've ever achieved in my life, it is something to constantly work toward. So I share this today for any of you who maybe you can relate. Maybe you have a loved one who's maybe battling some kind of addiction, as well as for those of you where maybe you didn't even know. I didn't even know. I had no idea. I never in my wildest dreams would have, nor did I classify myself as an alcoholic. I never did. I mean, now I do. I say it in the meetings, but it is something where it's part of this life journey where the more we talk about it, the more we're able to be unfiltered about it, the more we're able to help others and ourselves. Because many of the promises they talked about in AA, and I was like, what are these magical things? They are not something from some type of movie or a book or a little series. These are real things that have changed in my life. And I look forward to sharing those throughout this amazing experience with you all, with Kizzy-Unfiltered, as well as I look forward to just digging deeper into all of these different topics. Because when it comes to us as people, as women, or if you're a man, or however you define yourself, we are made up of all of these layers. There's so many layers to us. And some of those layers, we may not even know they are there, but they're there. It's like a baklava. Man, baklava's good, right? And it's like so flaky and there's all those layers and you're just like, oh my gosh, when does it stop? And then the honey and oh my goodness. We're like that too as people. There's so many layers to us. So to all my amazing people out there, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present myself in this unfiltered manner and to share more. And I encourage you, if there's something that you are battling, especially if it involves, drugs, alcohol, or what may have you, please look into getting help, whether it's through AA, or if you have a family member who's struggling through Al-Anon, just please reach out there because these different organizations really saved my life because I knew I was slowly deteriorating and that if I would have continued the way that I was going, I seriously, sincerely would not be here before you today. So thank you all so much. And don't forget, subscribe you all, follow, do everything you need to do, rate this amazing Kizzy-Unfiltered. Please do that. Until next time.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.